You tend to build the most resistance to what you want most because you notice its absence all the time. You definitely want this better for your life, but your resistance might have grown to such a level, weariness, frustration, resentment, envy, that you've unconsciously been quite busily and quite efficiently shooting down the very desire you're sending out. And if you're noticing your delay in getting to better as it compares to all those years wasted, you tell yourself, now you're really noticing its absence all the time for all those years. That's a pretty hefty rock wall you might be building, maybe along the lines of the Berlin Wall. Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Armitage, and welcome back to the Catalyst Code, where we crack the internal code that creates the external result. I am your host, and after 27 years as Bob Proctor's writing partner and protege, I've been helping people all over the world step into their greatness and create better in their world, whatever that better might be. So each week, Catalyst Code teaches you how to activate momentum, rewire your mind, and create results that stick. You're the catalyst. This is the code. So let's go. Now, today's episode is all about berating. Berating, the act of berating you, yourself. You've decided you want better. You want to be better. You want to expand your life in some way. And as you've dived more into learning this material, efforting this new change in your life, you can really get down on yourself. In the last few weeks, I've heard it from several clients. I've heard it from a bunch of you in my Catalyst Code, and it's coming from two angles. First, why didn't I know about this sooner? Why did I get all the way to this place in my life before I decided to consciously take the reins and choose a different result? And then there's the other angle, what I would call the present day angle. This isn't happening fast enough. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting this faster? Why isn't it all happening? Berating. Berating. Now, I know you're just so eager to get things changed. I get it. You're now aware that you have patterns of thinking that haven't done you any favors. And you've consciously been taking action, thinking action, feeling action, journaling action, visualizing action to insert a better thought, a better feeling, a coming from the space of having already achieved feeling. But I want to caution you here. You want to be aware of when that eagerness starts slipping into resistance. Now, you know me and how I like to spout the definition of a word. Resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with something. The refusal to accept or comply with something. Now, isn't that an interesting definition? What if you're refusing to accept or comply with all the good that's already coming? See, you tend to build the most resistance to what you want most. You tend to build the most resistance to what you want most because you notice its absence all the time. You definitely want this better for your life, but your resistance might have grown to such a level, weariness, frustration, resentment, envy, that you've unconsciously been quite busily and quite efficiently shooting down the very desire you're sending out. And if you're noticing your delay in getting to better as it compares to all those years wasted, you tell yourself, now you're really noticing its absence all the time for all those years. That's a pretty hefty rock wall you might be building, maybe along the lines of the Berlin Wall. Why didn't I figure this out sooner? Why didn't I take this path? Why didn't I tell him that and release myself from that emotional strife then? Why did I let myself gain back all this weight? Why didn't I stay in that healthy community? Why did I hold on to that terrible job that made me feel so crappy and they dumped me anyway? And then I felt worse. Why did I stay in that terrible marriage for so long? Listen, every time you revisit those old stories and stir up noise on those old emotions or react emotionally now because you didn't know better then, You're still adding more rocks to your Berlin Wall. Now, let's think about this, the Berlin Wall. It started as just a bunch of scrabbled together barbed wire. I mean, people could step over it still, but everyone was so shocked to see it start to go up that they didn't even really catch on for a few days. They didn't even really have any idea what was going on. They didn't have social media back then. It's like when you have that first hurt, that first disappointment that hit you way back when you didn't understand that you were in charge of creating your cause. You threw down some barbed wire. And as you reeled from whatever emotional trauma you were experiencing, trying to figure out why you just got roundhoused, the wall was busily transforming itself from barbed wire, which you could have found a way around, to a few rocks and slabs of concrete. And as you keep telling the story, as you keep berating other people for causing this to you, as you keep berating yourself for causing this to you, the wall just gets taller and taller and taller and more formidable. And pretty soon it's running circles all the way around your life for miles down the road. There is a way to take down that Berlin Wall. It's time to tell a new story. It's time to tell a new story. Take, for example, money. The money is here. Things are lined up. The resources are in place. Circumstances have been arranged. Look over here. Look right here. It's all right here. There's plenty of money. Whenever I'm ready, it's here lined up for me. I'm just relaxed and I'm letting it flow to me. When you start to tell a new story, you feel an immediate emotion of relief. And when you feel relief, the resistance melts away and you're on your way back up. You're in a better feeling vibe, a better feeling emotion, a better feeling thought. And then you begin to notice again, because it always was the fact, but you were in this resistance state with blinders on. You begin to notice that everything starts lining up for you. It's a simple key. Tell the story of your life the way you want it to be. Standing in that place of already realized, rather than the way it was, the way it has been up until this very moment. Yes, this takes some practice. It usually takes you sitting down and writing it out so that you're not fumbling around in the dark trying to find the light switch of relief when you find yourself in that emotion of resistance, envy, jealousy, berating yourself, anger, pity, feeling pathetic, feeling sorry for yourself. This is so vitally important to do because every thought you think in this direction, every feeling tone you send out in this direction begins to dismantle your Berlin Wall. Now, some of you may say, okay, Diane, easy for you to say. You're always saying that we've got to be thinking and feeling from the space of what it is as if it's already achieved. Yeah. Maybe for you, Jedi Master, trained by the Yoda Master of all time, but it's just not working for me. Well, okay, let's stop there and look at just that for a minute. Did you notice the resistance you're throwing out there with that kind of thinking? Funny, isn't it? Conscious awareness, conscious attention, conscious awareness, conscious attention. I say this to my clients so many hundreds of times a year. Honestly, even with Bob on the phone with me, as much as he was over those 27 years of working together and him dealing with the stuff I was going through, all those years, I don't think I got the importance of the resistance part until just a few years ago. It is the key that stops all the good. Now, a while back, I remember I caught myself right in the middle of the wrong kind of thought. I was thinking I'd really love to stay on the ocean with the sound of the waves, but, and I consciously had to stop myself. And I did a nifty trick that Abraham Hicks mentioned in something somewhere along the line that said, turn your butt to because. and you begin to melt the resistance. So instead of finishing that sentence of, I'd really love to stay on the ocean with the sound of the waves, but all the homes here on the ocean start at about 6 million and more. I interrupted, I broke into the sentence, the continuity of that thought, and I said out loud, I'd really love to stay on the ocean with the sound of the waves because it brings me peace and a feeling of freedom all at once. What did I just do there? I shifted my entire emotional trajectory. It is your becauses that rewire your butts. And that changes everything. Why? Because you're focusing on how you feel when the end result has already gone your way. That's way better than focusing on all the reasons you can't have it, right? See how that resistance just sort of melts off? Remember in my episode 8, when I was talking about setting a goal to move to Laguna Beach, and I wrote it in my journal in 1995, and then I closed the journal and I put the journal on the shelf. And then 5 years later, Bob asked me where I really wanted to live. And I was like, I would really love to live in Laguna Beach, but it's so expensive. Now, if you want to go back to episode 8 and read all of that or hear all of that again, I think it's a great idea that you do that. But what happened in that frame is immediately Bob made me come up with a because. He made me come up with a because. He forced an action to make me drive to Laguna Beach and start forwarding my mail. When I began to forward my mail, the energy and the trajectory shifted. I was no longer thinking, I can't afford to live in Laguna Beach. I was thinking, I need to get packed. And Bob was on it. He was like, are you packing? Are you packing? I need to get packed. I need to figure out where I want to live in Laguna Beach. I need to take a look around. I need to see. You know what I was doing? I was injecting myself into the emotional feeling of already being there. It became my because. I really want to live in Laguna Beach because. And all those reasons started peeling out. And soon, in a matter of days, the butt that had held me up for 5 years had been dismantled. That Berlin Wall had gone down. And I will say, breaking the continuity of thought, consciously noticing that but that you just told yourself or told someone else, you know, that thing that's making you slide down the emotional banister, interrupting that sentence and saying out loud with the because instead, it's a great trick. It makes you feel great. It makes you laugh out loud. I would do it maybe anywhere except when you're standing in a coffee line. Some people may think that's a little strange, but you know what? It doesn't matter about them because you're conquering your butts. The other thing to remember too, we know that our temporary vibration creates our temporary reality. Vibration, your feeling tone, right? Your temporary vibration, remember you're all energy. Your temporary vibration, energetic vibration, will attract the same energy to it. It has nothing to do with woo-woo. It is physics. It is the law of vibration. It happens instantly. Now, Reverend Michael Beckwith has hypothesized that 30 seconds of vibration creates 1 minute of that vibration's reality. That's how fast law of vibration lines up with whatever you're feeling out there. Okay? So think about the resistance you're feeling. Boof, you're creating this reality. Boof, you're creating this reality. Boof, you're creating this reality. What if you put a because in place and you started thinking of all the reasons why you want to continue to live on the coast? If you started thinking of all the reasons why you want to be in this relationship, why you want to be married, why you want to start your own business, why you want to travel around the world, why? Because. It works great when you're in a great vibration. It works just as fast when we're in the crappy vibration. The law doesn't care. It's just responding to energetic vibration. But the longer we return to that crappy vibration, even if it's 30 seconds, a couple times a day, the temporary vibration isn't very temporary anymore. it begins to mold and shape itself into a longer and longer reality. Have you ever had a friend who's just stuck? They're just stuck. Something happened in their life, or maybe a few things happened in their life, and they continue to perceive that as trajectory stopping, momentum stopping in their life. It may have happened 10 years ago. It may have happened 40 years ago. It may have been a really bad thing. You know, we didn't live through it, but that person has continued to carry the weight of it forward, continues to retell the story, continues to retell the story to themselves, continues to go down that emotional banister, right? What are they creating? A hell of a Berlin Wall. You're crafting a Berlin Wall that runs for miles in your life. So which vibration are we going to continue to practice through the day? It's our choice. We've got the reins. We've got our hand on the switch. Rein in that thought. Flip the switch. So keep this in mind. When it comes to that temporary vibration, the last thing any one of us wants to do is berate ourselves for stuff we did, stuff we didn't do, stuff we really didn't know any better about, stuff we created our own crappy circumstances for. We can go on and on with that self-flagellation. But basically, the only thing we get out of it is 1, a bloody back, which is hell on silk. 2, an even worse mood than when we started with the self-flagellation. And 3, continued emotional resistance in the form of berating that has continued to pile on the rocks at our own Berlin Wall. In fact, it does absolutely nothing to help us tear down that wall. So, lesson moving forward. The next time you feel like wondering why in the hell you didn't get to this stuff sooner, why in the hell it didn't soak in when you were surrounded by it years ago, or where in the heck is the good stuff I've been focusing on? Why isn't it happening yet? Remind yourself that that temporary vibration will do nothing to get you to where you want to be. This is where your perception, perception in your tower of power, this is where it actually comes in quite handy. Remember, facts have happened in your life. What you do next, the emotion you assign to that fact is your perception. So instead of beating yourself up, berating yourself for being such a loser in so many instances in your life, including why you must have something wrong with you because now everything you want and are focusing on isn't enough, so there must be something wrong with you. My God, how about you think of all the lessons you learned, the mistakes that you never created again in your life, and even more effective than addressing what you somehow filed as loser moments in your life. How about shifting your perception to all the great times you've created success, enjoyed serendipities that you created yourself, ridden the wave of an amazing day, turned a crappy event to your advantage, done things for people that made you feel a rush of sheer happiness and joy. Remind yourself that the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Oh, isn't that so good? Price Pritchett came up with that. What a beauty. It's in his book, Quantum Leap, Q Squared. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Just because you have planted the seed in the ground doesn't mean that you go scrabble it back up again and go, is the seed there? Is the seed there? Is the seed there? No, you are trusting that the seed is connecting with all of the vibratory, energetic material it needs to sprout. It needs to sprout. This is about understanding that the evidence is there. The evidence is there. It's happening. It's happening. It's already here. You're dismantling those few bits of rock and barbed wire that you had started to construct. So shift that thinking and feeling tone from why am I getting this so late in the game of my life? Congratulate yourself for getting it at all, because you're one of the very, very small percentages who ever do. And you're really getting it good. You're really getting it. And maybe when you discover yourself thinking, I've had all these chances to create wealth in my life, but I screwed up. My family didn't have the money to send me to the Ivy League school. I had a bad husband picker, et cetera, et cetera. Consciously interrupt and change that sentence to, I've had all these chances to create wealth in my life because I can make money any damn time I please. Because I know people in their 70s and their 80s who create new wealth for themselves all the time. Because I know the secret now and I am thoroughly invested. Because the gods, the goddesses, the angels, the spirit guides, and my dear guardian angel have been keeping my veritable fortune safe and sound, just waiting for me to get my head on straight and pick the damn keys to the door. That because word is the key for sure. So I want you to take a moment and think of when you were last noting a resistant thought around your progress, around your better not looking so much better. And I'd like you to just write it down, like right now. Write it down right now. And then look at that sentence and draw a dividing line at the part of the sentence where you can jostle that thing completely by inserting the word because. Now, how will the rest of your sentence read? Your positive momentum begins when you finally recognize that you've got the reins. You've got this now. And you really weren't that bad at it after all. I mean, look at all the things that you've created, the successes you've had in your life. You've got this now. You've always had it. Now you're just better at it because you're conscious about it. That's all that matters. Stop berating. Start becausing. That's it for today's Catalyst Code. Please like and subscribe at my YouTube channel. I love it when you people do that. And please share this with your friends and your peers because really, doesn't everyone deserve the code? Yep, they do. Next week, I'm introducing you to one of the finest authors who's ever walked the planet, Neville Goddard. Now, Neville, he's what I call heavy water. One sentence of his could be another War and Peace novel, but he's so good. So I'll be Dianifying one of his great passages, which is kind of like going back in time in a DeLorean. I want you to get this stuff and enjoy the road trip along the way. So I will see you next week in the Catalyst Code. Thank you for being a part of my world. Bye for now.